From Nada, hey Joe, is Jon Scheyer just peak Gaudette with better looks, or did most crown him way too soon?
Wow.
All right.
I'm just reading the question.
No, that's fine.
Wow.
That's fine. Okay. Are we going to have to do what we did last year with Carolina and Hubert Davis with Jon Scheyer this year? Is that what we're going to have to do? Is that what's this about? Look, at least in Jon Scheyer's case, he doesn't have the former coach hanging around all the time where people can just point to, well, he wouldn't have done this. Roy Williams. Coach K is doing – what do you think Coach K was doing last night? Like I said, what do you think he was doing last night? He wasn't watching the game.
I think he was watching the game.
No, there's no way.
I think he was watching the game.
No way.
I think he was watching the game, and I think he was jotting down notes.
Nah, I think what he was working on his next masterclass seminar. That's what he was doing.
We could bet on that one.
There's ways to find out.
No, the time you don't listen. When you're running hot and everyone's feeling good, or even when it's in the Garden and you played well against Kansas and you lose,
you
get a little bit of a good job. You get them tomorrow.
Okay.
Get back at it.
Yeah.
Maybe here's a couple of sets I would have run. Legitimately, if I had a mentor, Colton Tudor was still with us, and you know I had the ability to call him up and say, hey, I would call him after a night like last night and say, what can I do to get through to these players? What buttons do you think I should push?
Yeah.
Because this isn't a situation. Jon Scheyer had a year to get ready for this job, and he even said, I expected to have there would be nights like this.
Yeah,
but he's not Littlefinger going through all of the permutations of what could and couldn't happen. You're thinking of the sunny days. I don't care who you are. You're thinking of the sunny days.
That's fair.
And quite frankly, the transition was done for recruiting purposes.
Of course,
right? And this is where I say to Duke and I say to Mike Krzyzewski, you can have any plan you want, but that thing goes up in smoke the second Whitehead turns his ankle in August camp. That thing goes up in smoke the second Lively gets hurt. I think Jon Scheyer has actually done really good work this year to get this team in a position where if the tournament was today, they would be in it.
Yeah.
And I said this to you a couple of weeks ago. They would be in the tournament and they would probably win one game, if none. But they would be a tournament team, which most other schools would welcome. They're not a Final Four contender. They're not a national championship contender. They're not someone who's going to win the ACC this year. You know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But this is how the other 90% of the world lives.
Yes.
Carolina saw this up until the last 5 weeks of the year last year. This is how the other half of the world, the other 90% of the world, lives. You're not guaranteed ACC championships. You're not guaranteed Final Four runs. You're not guaranteed national title banners. You have to earn them. And I actually think Jon Scheyer is doing a good job.
Well, it's funny.
But I mean, it was certainly not Pete Gaudette. Even Pete Gaudette got a raw deal in retrospect now.
Well, it's funny as we were watching.
That's our guy.
As we were watching the game last night, you even joked like, "How does Scheyer look so calm?" I'm like, "Well, you got to remember he's talked about his breathing techniques and everything else." You actually brought it up to him last night, like, in the first half when things were really out of control, you seemed somewhat calm, all relatively speaking. Here's his response.
Well, we're a little bit far away, but it just seemed like you were almost...
Pause. Pause. Dennis, can you play the first part of that again? Because I think I might have missed this last night. Can you play the Giglio part of the question?
You felt I was calm. Well, we're a little bit far away, but it just
we were a little bit... I thought I changed your diaper yesterday before the show.
I told him I thought you were calm.
No,
and then he said,
we were.
No. And then he said, you thought I was calm? And I said, well, we're from where we were. We're a little bit far away.
You found a way to complain about your seat.
We'll let the man answer the question. It was actually a good answer.
You felt I was calm. Well, we're a little bit far away, but it just seemed like you were almost even meditating.
Well, for me, I've been in a lot of games in the ACC where we're down and you come back and win, and it's about navigating the game. So it's not about going into panic mode or anything other than trying to figure out how to win the next possession, and then you got to win the possession after that, and that's where my mind goes. And clearly, there's a lot that's happening in those moments. You can't point to one thing or on either side of the ball. It's a lot going on there, and they had a lot to do with that. Like, I'm not taking anything away from them. I give them a lot of credit. They were hungrier, and they did all the right things. But for me, that's where my mind goes. Is how can you win?
I'm still laughing at the fact that you went out of your way to point out where we're sitting. That was good. I'm impressed by that. All right, next up. I'm truly impressed. I'm not being facetious. I'm proud of you. Whoa. All right, next up.
All right, from Jonathan, who is having the worst crisis in leadership right now? The House GOP or Duke basketball?
It's actually Joe Giglio, who's still in a crisis mode about where he's sitting at an NC State Duke game at PNC Arena. Next up.
Yeah. All right, this one comes from LK. Favorite NC State big boy, Anya or Burns?
Ooh. Shout out to LK. Actually shouted her out yesterday.
Wait, really? You're debating this?
Here's the reason why I'm debating this.
Okay.
I related. BJ Anya is the one local ACC player that I related to more than anybody else. Do you know why?
I do not.
Because BJ Anya tried, man. He tried. He tried to lose weight. Like Mark Gottfried tried to get him to lose weight, but he admitted, because I remember having this conversation, he admitted like, yeah, man, I mean, you go to Chipotle and it's like, oh, I'll add this. He liked food. You know who else likes food? Me. You like food. Speaking of crises, like you're, not to give too much away, but you're having a little trial and error as to like, all right, what can I not? And you're like, imagine if you couldn't eat pizza anymore, Joe.
That would be a crisis.
Like somebody told you, Joe, in order to get into the best shape of your life, you can no longer eat pizza. You'll feel so much better. You will produce, you can dunk. And you're like, yeah, but it's
not worth it.
Pizza, bro. That was BJ. Like, I related like no other player with him because I feel the same way sometimes. Like, you're telling me I have to give up burritos?
Yeah, but
No.
I'm not being critical of DJ Burns when I say he's not in great shape.
No,
he only played 16 minutes last night, but he had 18 points.
He was great, man.
Like, he kind of succeeds in spite of himself.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Yeah. Stubborn.
I'm with you on that. All right, next up.
Lean back.
All right, from ACC State fan. Hey, Joe, did Duke make a mistake not hiring Jeff Capel?
What?
He's 4-0 while Scheyer got thumped by unranked
What
NC State.
is happening? We did this last year with Hubert Davis, where everybody was like, but did you see what Wes Miller did? Look what Wes Miller is doing. Did they make a mistake? How did the rest of the season play out for Carolina? They had one of the most memorable Carolina basketball seasons of all time outside of winning a national championship. Okay? Hubert Davis he head coached the team that ended K's career. And back at this time last year, all the way up until February, if I remember, when did they lose to Wake Forest? At Wake Forest. Carolina. It was in February, right?
It was January because they lost to Miami and
That's right.
and Wake in the same week on the road.
So, like, we're having the same damn conversation we had last year with Hubert Davis. Can we just see how things play out? Anyway.
Also, isn't it year 5 for Capel?
Yeah. Although it is Pitt. It's a little bit different. Credit to I will say this about Jeff Capel and Pitt, and if he was the head coach at Duke, they play hard at Pitt. They play hard. I didn't see that at Duke last night, but that's something that Jon Scheyer is going to learn over time. Because remember, this is not Jeff Capel's first rodeo as a head coach.
Right.